Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to completely shatter the myth of an empty wilderness and uncover a meticulously engineered world of advanced superpowers that existed way before Columbus or the Pilgrims ever showed up. We're talking about ancient cities larger than London, pyramids taller than those in Egypt, a road network that spanned an entire continent, and astronomers who could predict the cycles of the cosmos with just staggering accuracy. They rose, they conquered, and they vanished. This is the incredible story that history forgot. All right, let's dive right in by tossing out what your grade school textbooks told you and rewinding the clock all the way back to the Ice Age. Because every American story actually starts here, and definitely not in 1492. During the last Ice Age, ocean levels dropped by about 400 feet, which exposed this massive 600-mile-wide plain between Siberia and Alaska called Beringia. And it was across this land bridge that small bands of resilient survivors, known as Paleo-Indians, followed herds of mammoth and giant bison. Section 1. The First American Engineers. Now, these earliest arrivals didn't just survive the harsh elements, they completely transformed an entire continent. Think about the immense, hidden scale of this history for a second. We're bridging a massive gap from 21,000-year-old footprints found in New Mexico all the way to the sprawling empires of the 1400s. And those ancient footprints, literally the fossilized tracks of a mother setting down her child at white sands, really remind us of the deeply human element at the very beginning of this journey. And they were moving fast. Instead of slowly trudging through an ice-free corridor in Canada like we used to think, these brilliant survivors actually sped down the Pacific coast in boats, navigating what we call the Kelp Highway. In just 2,000 years, they peopled 2 entire continents, from Alaska all the way down to Chile. But they weren't just passively existing there. For 15,000 years, they engineered their landscape in total isolation. They purposefully burned forests to create plains, and they domesticated plants that would eventually go on to feed half the world. Section 2. Mesoamerica's Earliest Geniuses. Let's move south now, into the sweltering jungles of Mexico's Gulf Coast, where the foundational mother culture seemed to pop out of nowhere around 1500 BCE. These were the Olmecs. And they didn't live in some barren desert. They completely tamed a dense, thriving jungle. Picture this. They managed to move 17 colossal basalt heads, weighing up to 35 tons each. No wheels, no beasts of burden. They literally quarried these 11-foot portraits 50 miles away and dragged them through swamps. It's a mystery that still absolutely baffles us today. They also invented drainage systems, a pretty deadly ballgame, and the mathematical concept of zero, all before mysteriously abandoning their cities around 400 BCE. Fast forward a few centuries, and you get Teotihuacan. This was a master-planned metropolis of 125,000 people, which, by the way, dwarfed contemporary Rome. Yet they left behind absolutely no record of who actually built it. When the Aztecs found it in ruins 700 years later, they were so awestruck they named it the place where men become gods. And get this, under its massive 216-foot Pyramid of the Sun, archaeologists recently discovered a tunnel filled with pools of liquid mercury and pyrite mirrors, perfectly modeling their vision of the underworld. So while Teotihuacan ruled central Mexico, down south you had the Maya, flourishing as the genius children of the Americas. They operated a lot like ancient Greek city-states, with over 40 fiercely competitive rival kingdoms. They mastered incredible architecture, building the massive La Danta pyramid, which is just staggering in volume. And they developed the only complete writing system in the Americas, using 800 complex glyphs. These kingdoms were ruled by divine kings like Pakal the Great, who honestly believed their royal blood literally kept the gods fed. But their astronomical genius is what's truly unmatched. To put this into perspective, they calculated the solar year to be exactly 365.2420 days long. Our modern, highly advanced calculation? 365.2422. That is staggeringly close. They also tracked the orbit of Venus to an accuracy of just 2 hours over a 500-year period. And remember, they figured out all of this math and science completely independently, totally cut off from the rest of the globe. Section 3. Empires of Blood and Sky. Eventually, a perfect storm of endless war, overpopulation, and a brutal 200-year megadrought caused the classic Maya to collapse in the 9th century, and the jungles simply swallowed their cities whole. But the story of ancient America was far from over. Out of the aftermath, 2 simultaneous colossal titans emerged. When the Spanish arrived in 1519, they were absolutely stunned by the Aztec capital of Tenochtitlan. It was a magnificent lake city 5 times the size of London. Built by a wandering tribe called the Mexica in 1325, this place was basically Venice on steroids, complete with causeways, aqueducts, lush botanical gardens, and these massive, sprawling daily markets. To feed a bustling city of 250,000 people living on a lake, you need brilliant aquatic engineering. They achieved this using chinampas, which were these incredible artificial floating gardens that could produce up to 7 harvests a year. But underneath all this golden prosperity, the city was ruled by a terrifying god emperor named Moctezuma II. His religion demanded massive human sacrifice just to keep the sun shining. Seriously, they believed that without blood, the world would literally end in eternal darkness. At the dedication of their great temple, priests sacrificed 20,000 people in just 4 days to keep their 38 provinces in line through sheer terror. Let's compare these two titans for a moment because the contrast is wild. While the Aztecs ruled a blood empire fueled by bustling markets, written glyphs, and absolute terror, the South American Inca were busy building a tranquil sky empire stretching 2,500 miles along the Andes. The Inca didn't use cruelty. Their secret weapon was flawless organization. They had no money, no markets, and no written alphabet at all. Instead, they recorded their vast census data and kept track of everything using quipus, these intricate fiber computers made entirely of colored, knotted strings. How do you connect 12 million people without money or writing? With an astonishing 25,000-mile network of stone-paved, earthquake-proof roads. It's an engineering marvel. Their elite runners could relay messages 150 miles a day on foot, all at 13,000 feet elevation. And their stonework at places like Machu Picchu, it's so perfectly cut and fitted together without a single drop of mortar that even today, you literally cannot slip a razor blade between the stones. Section 4, North America's Lost Metropolises. Now, you might be thinking colossal pyramids and megaliths were strictly a Latin American thing, right? Actually, no. If we move up to the present-day U.S., we find thriving ancient metropolises hidden in plain sight. Take Cahokia in modern-day Illinois. This was a massive trade hub where 20,000 Mississippian mound builders lived. They constructed gigantic earthen structures, including Monk's Mound, which is 100 feet tall with a base larger than the Great Pyramid of Giza. Peaking around 1050 CE, they built their own wood henge to track solstices and ran a continental trade network moving copper from the Great Lakes and shells all the way from the Gulf of Mexico. Meanwhile, further southwest, the ancestral Puebloans were doing something just as spectacular. They literally carved astonishing 800-room apartment complexes straight into the sides of sheer cliffs. At Chaco Canyon, they laid down 40 miles of perfectly straight roads and aligned their massive structures flawlessly with the solar cycle. But, very much like the Maya, they mysteriously abandoned these unbelievable mesa-top cities around 1300 CE during a prolonged megadrought, leaving behind only haunting ruins and the oral histories carried on by their modern descendants. So, what is the big takeaway from all this? It's that pre-Columbian America was a thriving, incredibly complex world, overflowing with brilliant engineers, astronomers, and rulers. The Olmec heads, the Maya calendars, the vast Inca highways, the giant mounds of Cahokia, they all prove one undeniable fact. Columbus didn't discover an empty new world. He violently collided with an intensely old one that had already risen and fallen multiple times. And honestly, the most exciting part of this whole explainer? We have barely scratched the surface. Thanks to modern LIDAR technology that can digitally strip away dense jungle canopies, researchers just recently discovered 6,000 completely unknown Maya structures in Guatemala. We're now realizing that even the Amazon rainforest was home to bustling, interconnected ancient cities of up to 30,000 people. Which leaves us with this one truly awe-inspiring thought to ponder as we wrap up this explainer. If we are only just right now uncovering massive lost cities beneath the canopy, mapping out forgotten highways, and finally grasping the true gigantic scale of this superpower continent, what else is waiting under the trees? Thanks for exploring with us today. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you in the next one.